So I've read every book by Colleen Hoover, and I'm going to be ranking them from favorite to least favorite. So first is November 9, and it is my favorite all-time book of Colleen Hoover. I have recommended this book to so many people when they reach out to me and say, I want to start reading her books, where should I start? I always say November 9. I just think it starts out so good from the first page, and I did not want to put it down. In the whole entire book, I was just so entertained, and I just absolutely loved it. Too Late is, oh my gosh, I just love this book so much. It's so intense. It's like you're on the edge of your seat. I'm biting off all my fingernails. Oddly enough, this is a book that she wrote when she was having a writer's block during writing like other novels, and she never really intended to publish it, and thank goodness she did, because I just love this book. However, this one is unlike any of her other books, and there are a lot of trigger warnings, so be sure to check those out first. So for series, I just decided I'm going to rank them together. It Ends With Us, 5-star book, hands down. When I first read It Starts With Us, I actually made YouTube videos about both of these books on my channel because I had so many thoughts and feelings. Because It Starts With Us is just lacking a lot of the drama that you would expect after reading It Ends With Us. But then once I really thought about it more and realized that this book was more about the ending that we all needed, this book was for the fans, I changed my rating to 5 stars. So I absolutely adore this series, and I cannot wait for the movie to come out later this year for It Ends With Us. Okay, Verity is probably one of the most commonly heard of books when people talk about Colleen Hoover. It is also different than, it's not like your typical romance novel. It is more of a thriller. Very like just jaw-dropping. Like you think you know what's happening, but you probably don't. And it was really good. Confess for me was another 5-star book. I feel like this book does not get the attention it deserves. I love the whole meaning behind the story, and the ending is just a perfect amount of shock, and it's one of my favorites. So reminders of him. When this book was released, it was kind of when I was first getting into reading her books, and I read this one and I was like, wow, she really is such an amazing writer. And that's when I started going back and reading all of her older books, and loved this one as well. I just love the plot. It's just so different, unexpected, another 5 stars. So the Slam series is by far my favorite series. Slammed and Point of Retreat, I gave both of them 5 stars. The characters, they're just the most beautiful, heartwarming, kind, gentle, caring characters I think I've ever read in the book. Like, I want to be their friends or their mother or something. Loved it. Fell in love with each and every character. And then I just don't enjoy when an author then decides to write another book in a series and have it be a retelling of the original story just from the other person's point of view. So this one is from the male character point of view, and I just was bored reading it. But then when you get to the epilogue, which you don't know what's going to happen in the epilogue until you read this book, it makes it worth reading. So if you're going to read the other 2 books, you have to read this one because you want to know how it ends. But the truth is the rest of the book was just for me. All right, a few books that I gave 4.5 stars, and I'll explain why. The first one is Regretting You. I actually would think of this book as like a 4 or 4.5 until you get to the last chapter, and then my heart did a complete flip, and I was like, okay, no, it's a 5-star book. So a little conflicted on this one. Enjoyed reading it. I just felt there was a lot that was predictable. I didn't find myself quite as entertained while I was reading the whole entire book. So overall, I ended up giving it a 4.5. Without Merit, I gave this one 4.5 stars as well. This one I love that it touched on mental health and depression. Not a whole lot too shocking or crazy happening in this book, but just the concept, the plot of the book kept me interesting because it just was a little bit different than what she normally writes. And at the end, I was literally laughing through my tears. Layla is another one that I gave 4.5 stars. It's different. Again, this is more of kind of like a paranormal story, so it's quite different than any of her other books. I did not like the main male character. He was just so unlikable, and maybe that was the whole point. We're supposed to not like him, but because I found him so annoying and frustrating, I just struggled to completely enjoy the book. So it just wasn't one of my favorites. Next up is the Hopeless series. I have all of the books here, and honestly, I love the characters in Hopeless. I gave Hopeless 5 stars. It's just a great start to the series. Loved all the characters, the main characters, and honestly, this series had the strongest like supporting characters, if that's what you want to call them, of any series that I've ever read. You just love everyone. Losing Hope I gave 4 stars because, again, it's that retelling of the original story from the male perspective. So I mean, I liked it. It just wasn't my favorite. Finding Cinderella is actually considered book 2.5, and it is from one of the supporting characters' point of view. And oh my gosh, I just love Daniel. I love the character in this book. It's a shorter story. I love little novellas like this because you can just fly through them in one sitting. And Daniel has a place in my heart forever. All Your Perfects. This one I gave 4 stars. I didn't like the back and forth between now and then. And it's a lot of like struggles that this couple is going through. It ends really well, so that's why I gave it 4 stars. I didn't find emotional attachment to the characters until way towards the end. So Finding Perfect, I gave 5 stars. It's a very, very short novella, and I pretty much cried through the entire thing. Then next up is the Maybe series. I gave 4.5 stars to the first book, Maybe Someday. This series is unique as the 2 like main characters are deaf characters. I can't think of any other book I've ever read that has that storyline, so I found it interesting. I love the chemistry between the 2 main characters. I just found a lot of the story repetitive and drug out and like wasn't getting to the point quick enough. Maybe Now I gave 4 stars. Again, I don't know, something about this series, I just felt like I wasn't entertained as much, even though I love the characters and I did have emotional attachment to finding out what was going to happen with the relationship. Just something was lacking in this series for me that I usually feel when I'm reading her books. And we end with Maybe Not. I also gave 4 stars. This was a short novella about one of the supporting characters, and it was good. That's about all I can say. I gave Heartbones 4 stars, and I know it seems so like low down here at the bottom of the ranking of all of her books. I did really enjoy it. I think it's a good story. There's a good twist in this one that comes really out of nowhere and was unexpected and enjoyable. There was nothing about it that I didn't like. It was a touching story, I'll tell you that. Just not one of my favorites, I guess. And then we end with Ugly Love, which I know this is probably way like unpopular opinion because so many people read this as their first Colleen Hoover book, and this is what helps them get addicted to her stories, which if that's what does it for you, more power to you. I just did not like the back and forth in the timeline. It just wasn't my favorite way of learning about these characters. Kind of made me like impatiently annoyed with all the characters, just trying to understand why everybody acted like a fool. And there was so much lack of communication in this book, which drives me crazy, in stories of like, why do people feel and think all these things and they can't use their words and talk to each other? So I just, as much as I wanted to, found myself like having to force myself to finish this one, and I just really didn't love it. And then Never Never, which was co-wrote with another author, and I'm not sure exactly how it was written, who wrote what. I know there are like 3 short stories that they put into one book that you could get. Never Never, I gave this 3 stars. And the crazy thing is when I was reading it, it was so different and unique. I loved it. I was like, where is this going? This is crazy. This is so good. And then the last 15 pages were like, what the heck just happened? Like, this is so not good. What a horrible, I literally hated the ending. So I didn't hate the whole book though. That's why I gave it a 3. Otherwise I probably would have gave it like a 2 or 2.5. It's written really well, just that darn ending.